honorable sisters, brothers, and friends. This is going to be 24/7, I think video number 7. And what I intend to do is, of course, per Galileo, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And going to present them just the way I am. I think I may be a martyr. I don't know of many more than yours truly that have survived at least 66 years of criminally insane J. Edgar, Homo, Hoover, and Homo Hoover-istic. They are faggots. I think it's humorous. I actually have to be careful not to just bust out laughing in public. I have on the website challenges. Nobody seems to want to challenge this little old preacher. But if out in public and they can get a gang, a group, then they go through some gyration. How can you be better than me? Look, I'm taller, bigger, stronger. Well, I didn't invite them into an arm wrestle. Although when I was young, because I played baseball, I wouldn't use my right arm. There was nobody in my class who could beat me using my left arm. And some of them are much taller and bigger than yours truly. I'm challenging them on principle. The quantity and quality of your manhood. They are putridly sickle, faggot Hooverists. They follow me around and then say, look, I'm better. Better at what? Following somebody around and being a faggot? I mean, it's laughable. Or they're doing something and say, we're stirring you into being what we want you to be. No. You're some kind of a, like, puppet, faggot. You sell yourself because you're making money doing that. Or you're a little psycho because that's what you want to do. I don't try to waste one increment of time, because Ben Franklin said, if you love life, do not squander time, because that's what life is made of. And that's why I'm going to present myself now the way I am and say it the way it is. If I'm having a formal presentation, definitely, and celebrating a Mass, of course, then I'll try to be qualitatively in presentation as good as I can be during the circumstances, especially financial and etc. But if I obtain some of my tremendous achievements just being me, like what? Well, I'm going to say this is a discipline, and then put forth what I've done in that discipline, and am doing, and can do. I don't call myself Doc because I want to sound important. It's because I've earned at least honorary. And as one man said, he said, I've been trying to be a PhD and I finally made it. He says, now I'm back in the U.S. In the USA. He says, now I'm back here where they wouldn't give me the chance to be a MD. He says, but now an MD. He says, I'm doing this kind of work like you're doing. He says, until I can actually get doing work as an MD. And we had an in-depth conversation. And he said, you know, he said, you're like the ones who taught me in that scholarly academy. He says, you're a professor emeritus, a doctor of doctors. And I saw an ad, Dr. Doc. See the great doctor's name, Dr. Doherty. He says he's a doctor of the docs because if you have difficulty with your vision, see him because he's a pioneer in laser. Light obtained electromagnetic radiation. Well, that's of high interest to yours truly. I did the original work, the concept of the science of laser. Absolutely. Put this on a voice stress analyzer. I'll take a polygraph test anytime, anywhere on an editor's desk. They print the results. IMD. Science put forth of the laser beam, light of Keystone electromagnetic radiation. Well, in the medical field, what have I done? Well, I was slender and wasn't big, but I had speed. So I was the fastest, definitely compared to trackmen, faster or at least as fast as them, playing baseball. And my goal was that if and when I played Major League Baseball, and I thought I could do it, and now I think back, I know I would have done it, would have achieved Major League Baseball, was to break Ty Cobb's record. He was my idol. He was aggressive. I didn't know how mean he was and that he was sharp in his spikes and so forth. But I knew he had the record of 96 stolen bases in a year. And he said, no, probably nobody ever beat that. Well, my goal was to steal 100 bases. So that's what I concentrated on. And then I read where Ty Cobb tried to steal 2 bases on 1 pitch. And I was getting to practicing that and did it, but the fellow hit a foul ball. If you'd have swung and missed or not swung, I think I would have stole 2 bases on 1 pitch. So Ty Cobb said that baseball is 90% psychology. Here's a man accused of being a roughneck, rowdy fighter type on the field. And he is philosophically saying that he thinks baseball is 90% psychology. That's interesting. So there must be some psychology then in baseball. Of course there is. Definitely to be adroit as far as being prepared, that you have to try to steal second base, and if you're getting real good, to steal second and maybe third on 1 pitch. Well, I realized that if you're slender, you can have speed. That would help you in speed. So I concentrated on speed and encouraged others. So somebody started this presidential jogging. I'll give you 3 guesses. The spelling might be DOC. You understand? It was during Kennedy's time, and I was a one-man think tank, ideas man, and I would say, I jog. In fact, I run. And I think this is the way to keep your health. Voila. As soon as a president jogs, or important, somebody has got a lot of publicity, and it becomes like their program, and it gets, others do it. Isn't that the truth? All the U.S. and all over the world, they're joggers now. What else have I done in the medical field? Well, I think that because of conditions, people get injured or insulted. And it's up to other individuals to say, consider the source and move forward. And you get to where you can laugh at them. Like these Hoover-istic faggots, both male and female, posing and whatever. There's a female stronger than a man. Look, lady, you better concentrate on being a lady and being a housewife and a mother. That's what you have to concentrate on. Not that maybe you can lift 200 pounds. That's my opinion. Should women participate in sports? Certain sports. Because if they injure their reproduction process, that might ruin their life. A guy can get a hernia, but he grins and bears it. And may even make him look more manly. I'm going to tell it the way it is. Well, what else have I done in the medical field? Realize that there is maybe a way naturally to stay healthy. Why eat junk food? I knew a man that was full-blooded Indian. And I said, gee, my teeth, I got another cavity, I got to see a dentist. And he says, well, do you eat candy? And I says, yeah, that was the thing I could do, was to have a candy bar because it gives you pep and energy. He says, that might be true. He says, but my father would never let us and the Indians there eat candy. And he says, I never have cavities. I never see a dentist. So I stopped eating candy, the chocolate. Evidently that sugar on your teeth is not good. So he then also would run. Then I was working, this was after World War II, and I had sustained an injury. And I was having some difficulties, but it was due to Hooverism, really. Not the fellow was a weird. As soon as you had something to do with Hoover, there was a sheer drop in morals, in real intelligence, actually, and most things. It's just the fellow had a power authority. But through the years, I had to say, look, you have to get a middleman between that queer Hoover and yours truly. I just can't have anything to do with that fella. So that's the way we did it. Somebody I worked with, we'd have discussions. And in Xerox, my Xerox, I worked with a man that was the height and perfect image of President Kennedy, and a man that was the height and built and perfect image of Robert Kennedy. I work with them too, day after day. We have lunch, the three of us, and discuss whatever. Do you understand? What real important maybe did I ever do in the medical field? Don't say a person is bad if they've been injured. Stop whatever is injuring them and let them recover. Anything really important? I think so. I am getting on a plane to go from my area, the Southwest, to up towards New York. And I'm originally from upstate New York. I say upstate New York because we want to not be known as those toughs of maybe New York City. So, and it was more rural. So, I'm on the plane, two-seater, and I like to get near the window so I can view what I'm flying over. And a distinguished man sits next to me, and he starts the conversation fine. And he says, "You're Doc?" I says, "Yes." He says, "In the medical field?" I says, "No, I'm not that rich, of course. It's really an honorary title in theoretical mathematics, advanced concepts, theoretical mathematical physics, and science inventions." And he looked at me, and he said, "Honorary degree?" I says, "Yes, due to circumstances, I couldn't get the sheepskin." So he started laughing. He says, "Well, I forget his name, but he says, I'm Dr. So-and-so." I go, "Oh, good." I says, "What particular expertise?" And he looked at me and he said, "Surgeon." I says, "Well, specifically what?" He says, "Cardiovascular surgeon." I said, "Well, that's real challenging." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I got a real challenge coming up." And I says, "Well, like what?" He says, "I am on my way to South Africa." He said, yeah, he had to go to New York, and there's a group, he's on my way to South Africa, they're going to have an international convention, and I'm going to be the keynote speaker. I said, "Well, that's quite an honor." And he said, "Yeah, and it's quite a challenge." He says, "I've been going over my notes backwards and forwards." He says, "And now I realized they purposely had that seat vacant so this top world surgeon could sit next to me and we could have a discussion about cardiovascular surgery." Because I've done more inventions, well, maybe not in quantity like Edison, but he has the electric light, that's number one. But I had the laser beam, and that's actually more scientific. And the Xerox, the photocopier, done throughout the world. Now, in the medical field, though, he said, "I'm supposed to present the decision, should we surgically remove the heart or put a transplant, depending on our estimate of whether or not the donor's heart would be acceptable." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, isn't that the standard practice?" He says, "Yeah, that's standard practice, but," he says, "our percent of successes are nowhere near what we want them to be, and they're not as near as I think they should be." And I thought a moment, and I said, "Well, what's the procedure?" He said, "Well, the procedure, of course, is we have the donor's heart ready, and we try to immediately insert the donor's heart, and that it will be accepted and function." And I said, "If it doesn't function," he says, "the patient dies." He says, that's the critical part. Do I tell them not to perform the surgery, and the patient will die, in a month, 2 months? Or should we try it because the patient says he wants to do it? And if he dies, he dies. He says, "But then I have to make a decision if I think the patient should actually be given a donor's heart." And then I said, "Well, there's a period of time you wait to see if if that person accepts the donor's heart. He says, yes. I says, well, I have this idea, suggestion. Why remove the patient's heart, put in the donor's heart where you'll have a plural system, a function, and if the donor's heart takes, then you remove the patient's heart. If it doesn't, you remove the donor's heart, and the person might live a week, maybe only now a week or a month, or might be in a position where he can take another donor's heart. And he looked at me, and he says, give me a minute here. And he started writing down. He says, I think that's really great, sir. He said, I think that's really great, Doc. That's, at the moment, what this little old preacher, Doc, has done in the medical field. It was tried, I think, even in South Africa, and it's now standard practice in a lot of places. And if not, then I think they should use that procedure. It was used, it has helped out, and I think it's valid. That expert accepted it. And so, 21 minutes. So this is who I am. I think there's humor in everything. And I like my best story academically of the physicist who became a PhD in physics using not one equation in his postgraduate work and his dissertation, oral exam. He said, I'm a physicist. He says, I don't have to be a mathematician to be a physicist. And the good old judge agreed with him. He said, when that man talks, he explains himself, I understand him, and he's telling the truth. Thank you.